Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a great one for you this morning. So Christine Lagarde and the European Central Bank move toward a moment of truth when it comes to central bank digital currencies. And a Delaware court has issued a restraining order against Ripple and XRP sales. Let's just roll this intro and get into this.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You guys can follow me at Backup Bradley at the top of the screen and everything that we're talking about here today. Let's just look at the market very quickly. There's 8,305 cryptocurrencies, and I can assure you there are not 8,305 use cases. But that's where we're at this morning. We are at 928 billion. We have fell significantly below the 1 trillion plus market cap that collectively we had as crypto in the crypto space. Bitcoin at 31,798, and we are down almost 15%, 14.57 on the 7-day for Bitcoin. Ethereum still up about 1.48% on the 7-day. Most of that's has been made back in the last 24 hours for Ethereum. It's coming in at $1,230.66. Coming down to the number 5 spot, XRP sitting at 27 cents this morning. We are off 5.73% on the 7-day. Let's get into this. This is a quick clip from Tom Jessup, who appeared on CNBC yesterday to discuss Bitcoin's recent price movement, institutional demand, and more. I want to play 1 minute or so of this clip just so you can hear what he says. I think if you hold Bitcoin or if you were a Bitcoin maxi in any way, there's something very, very specific that he says in here that I think we need to understand. Let's have a go.
Our next guest is the president of Fidelity's digital assets team, responsible for creating an institutional brokerage capability for Bitcoin and other tokenized securities. Fidelity's Tom Jessup joins us now. Tom, good morning. Kate laid it out pretty well there. What are you expecting from the new administration when it comes to cryptocurrencies and regulations?
Yeah, good morning. Yes, I agree. Given Chairman-elect Gensler's experience in the space and what he's been doing in recent years, I think it paints a more generally constructive attitude or picture in terms of what we might expect going forward. I would note that we saw some fairly interesting and good regulatory developments last year. You look at the OCC and some of the guidance they've given banks around access to the asset class or even participating in some of these networks. And more recently, and perhaps less publicized, some requests for comment from the SEC around better definition around what it means to be a custodian in the space. And even some questions about what it would mean for broker-dealers to transact in tokenized securities. So even predate.
He talked about broker-dealers trading in tokenized securities. Pay attention to that. That's a biggie.
Dating this news, we've started to see more constructive engagement with the regulators, and we think that will persist into the new year, just given what we're seeing in terms of institutional and as well as retail demand, which was alluded to in the prior session.
Right, Tom, you mentioned Gary Gensler's track record. He's going to head up the SEC. But what did you make of Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary's comments yesterday? She warned of terrorism risk and seemed to suggest that its use should be curtailed. Does that worry you?
Listen closely.
It does, but I think, there's an interesting report that will be issued by one of the companies that does forensic blockchain analysis, which is a tool that, we rely on in terms of operating our business. And they do an annual report of, call it illegal or illicit activity on the Bitcoin blockchain by actually looking at network activity. And the preview of this report is that on an absolute basis, they estimate that illegal activity on the blockchain has dropped 50% to 10 billion last year. And just given overall transaction volume increases on the Bitcoin blockchain, as a percentage of total activity, it's something like 0.3%.
I want to stop right there because here's the deal. What he just said to you is that any Bitcoin maximalist who feels that they're anti-establishment, anti-bank, nobody knows what they're doing with their money is out the window, right? It's out the window. He just told you, Tom Jessup just told you from Fidelity Digital Assets that they are that there is companies out here just like chain analysis or blockchain analysis, I think is what he mentioned there. They aren't scanning just exchanges. They're scanning the Bitcoin blockchain, and they can tell you exactly down to the percentage or tenth of percentage how much criminal activity is taking place on this amazing blockchain that everyone thinks that we don't need to worry about governments and regulation and all of this. Well, let me tell you something. There's a new day coming, and we're about to look at a lot more information that tells you that there's a new day coming. And I can tell you right now, it's not going to look like the days of old in crypto. Not at all. Let's keep moving forward here. MoneyGram expands real-time digital P2P payments with Visa Direct through new checkout.com partnership. I showed this, and I want to show yesterday, and I want to show this. French fintech KM Project offers integration of Ripple's technology. KM Project's client portfolio is composed of major clients in Morocco, France, and French-speaking Africa. KM Projects can boast 70 partners and 200 implemented projects. I'm showing these two pieces of news to remind you Ripple on an international level is moving forward, and that is an amazing sign to me. Now, let's come here to the regulatory side, because we see that the Senate committee votes unanimously in favor of Janet Yellen as Treasury Secretary. We drill down on the article just a second here. The Senate Committee on Finance voted unanimously to approve Yellen's nomination Friday morning. Things are moving quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Setting the stage for a full Senate vote, Republican Senator Chuck Grassley said he hoped that the GOP's backing would signal bipartisan support under the new Democratic administration. She's going through. That's what that means. Digital Euro's moment of truth to come in April. We hear from Christine Lagarde, and she says that the European Central Bank will decide in the spring, most likely in April, whether to move ahead with the preparatory work to launch a digital euro. I want to let you know right now that here's the spoiler alert. It's going to happen. This is from Michael Val, 5 links, and thank you to BondCrypt and DJ Peter Vass and everybody else who sends information to XRP Crypto Wolf. BIS says the proof of concept platform will use multiple CBDCs to explore the feasibility of faster, cheaper cross-border payments. I went into this yesterday, but we need to see the order of this news to understand what the potential outcomes are here. And there are many, and we're going to discuss a couple today. So here's a reminder that cross-border CBDC DLT projects planned by Central Bank and the BIS Innovation Hub. I want to remind you right here, one of the 4 different pilot projects that they are working with is this. Next is a platform to settle cross-border payments using multiple wholesale CBDCs. This new project is for an international settlement platform onto which multiple central banks could issue wholesale CBDCs. The aim is for banks and payment service providers to use this for settlement purposes. Now, I'm going to play this as a reminder to you that you can build a private network on top of the XRP Ledger open source technology. I played this for you the other day, but there's more to go here. We're getting ready to hear some things from Michael Arrington and many more, so hang tight here.
I mean, certainly we do know of central banks looking at the XRP Ledger as open source technology to issue stablecoins using the XRP Ledger.
Well, there you go. And it's no better way to hear it than from Brad Garlinghouse himself. So we do know that this sounds very similar to what Brad Garlinghouse shared with us. And that was right before we learned a month or so later that Ripple was going to be sued by the SEC. I don't believe at all that it was a mistake that Brad Garlinghouse mentioned that to show the utility and the potential, because XRP is not a security in his eyes. It's not mine either, but because I'm a holder and I'm a retail investor and speculator in this market, I have to entertain the notion going forward that it could be. Because we also know that Gary Gensler, by the way, is already going to be tapped as has already been tapped as the nominee for the SEC chair, clearly says that XRP, in his view, is a unregistered security. So we have to entertain the notion. Look, I feel this way about it. Whatever it is, if it's possible then we have a responsibility to consider what that outcome may look like to us, especially as retail holders. Speaking of retail holders, rapper Soulja Boy aims to get XRP and already holds Bitcoin. He says, "How do I purchase XRP?" he asked, and shared a screenshot from Coinbase where he has failed to acquire XRP. Shout out to Soulja Boy, and shout out to so many other retail investors around here who are looking to get XRP and cannot today. That's right. Now think of this as we move through the next several pieces of information here. Retail investors broadly, and certainly here in the U.S., have started to lose access to be able to buy, trade, sell, and hold XRP. This is very interesting because all of this is happening due to the SEC lawsuit against Ripple. Now, when we listen to that, I want you to listen to these comments from Michael Arrington and Leah Halpern here in this interview. It's about a minute and 10 seconds. Let's listen to this.
Is it a security? And then the conversation's over.
And by the way, Michael Arrington years ago was a securities lawyer. Let's keep listening.
Is it a security? And then if it is, which is entirely a legal definition, then the SEC can really put the hurt on you. And so I think it's all securities in the sense.
He says, I think it's all securities in the sense that we're trying to get out of the dollar.
Of like, we're all buying these things because we're trying to get into assets that will protect us from what the dollar is doing.
Amen.
But no, are we looking at the Howey test, a 100-year-old sort of test that is absolutely useless in a modern world?
Screaming for us to get a legal precedent on this case with Ripple and XRP so we can have a Ripple test that sits beside the Howey test for this new digital asset class that's making its way into the traditional commodities market.
It's ridiculous. And so we also have to look at the fact that there's like 7 other federal organizations that are regulating crypto. And so is it a currency? Is it a commodity? How does the IRS tax it? How does the DOJ and the FBI look at all of this? And it's just a mess. And so what is more interesting than is this a security? How do we define a security? Is will the U.S. come up with a coherent regulatory scheme that allows Americans and people who want to do business in America to experiment with new business models and new type of assets to compete on a worldwide basis? And the answer so far is absolutely not. The U.S. is only concerned with how to tax it and how to shut it down. And so we need to fix those 2 problems from a much higher perspective than is this a security or not a security?
Excellent comments and insight from Michael Arrington. Shout out to him. We did have a chance to interview him at our time at Swell for Cryptonaires. By the way, there's going to be some very good information that you all have been waiting for, and I can't wait to tell you what it is when it comes to Cryptonaires. Hang tight. All right, now moving on here, I covered this the other day, and it didn't get much traction when I made the video, but I tell you what, it doesn't make it any less important. So I'm going to run it up your flagpole one more time. Delaware Chancery Court has approved temporary restraining order against Ripple. Hey, you hearing this? The Delaware Chancery Court has approved temporary restraining order against Ripple on behalf of Tetragon, the investor, seeking to stop any further XRP purchases until the investor can sell back its stock. Let's take a look. You with me now? You hear me now? Yeah. Delaware Chancery Court has approved a temporary restraining order against Ripple on behalf of an investor seeking to stop any further XRP purchases until investors can sell back its stock. According to its reports, the Delaware Chancery Court has approved a temporary restraining order against Ripple Labs Incorporated on behalf of an investor, Tetragon, which seeks to stop any further XRP purchases until investors can sell back its stock. The court approved the bid from investor Tetragon to prevent Ripple from buying any more XRP or redeeming other investor stock until Tetragon's stake had been redeemed. Tetragon has said the action was brought following the investigation into Ripple by the U.S. SEC. What does it mean? What it means to me is that Ripple announced in Q2 that they would begin buying off the secondary markets where they thought necessary. That means the secondary markets or exchanges that you and I purchase XRP off of. That now has fallen under this restraining order from Delaware Chancery Court. That ain't happening. It also tells me that there's no more buying of XRP OTC is what it tells me as well, which would tell me that the purchases and the XRP we see going back and forth over the last few days or so, if we are understanding this correctly, better be coming out of their personal stash and not out of the escrow, it seems to me. That's where I'm at with that. So moving on, let's take and analyze this from where we are. What is happening right now? Let's just macro this thing for a second. Where we are right now is that U.S. retail investors have all but been shut out. Now, of course, you could trade into XRP if you have an account on BitTrue. You can buy it directly if you have an account in Uphold, because Uphold's in the UK. Love it. Major support to both of those exchanges. Coinbase, by the way, courtesy of Mr. BXRP, has stopped selling XRP to all regions. All regions, not just U.S. residents. And I know this because I've had several people from other regions say, hey, I tried to get Coinbase and it won't let me. Don't believe it. It's still true. I think what you have to do when I play you this next clip is imagine exactly what Dilip Rao is going to tell you and remind you of. And then ask yourself if this moment we're in is exactly that pivotal moment where they transition from retail investor, right, the consumer speculator, into the market that XRP was truly intended for, which is institutional users, institutional market makers, be it banks or financial institutions. Listen to this clip really quickly and we'll finish.
To Dilip, this question comes from the audience. Many people are using cryptos just to buy and sell and make quick gains out of it. Does it hurt the growth of cryptocurrencies, that usage for a quick buck?
So the question simply is, does retail gum up the whole works here? Does it really help you to have retail investors in this thing, or does it hurt you? Listen.
So it's kind of chicken and egg. You have to create a marketplace. And
I had to create a marketplace, and that's where we came in.
Right now, we have about 150, 200 exchanges around the world that trade in XRP. A lot of it, as you say, is very shallow trading by individuals, and that is not the use case that we are pursuing.
That is not the use case that we are pursuing, and right now, XRP is on 150 to 200 exchanges. They have now begun in the U.S. with a lawsuit from the SEC market regulator against Ripple, begun to shut down the noise, as he refers to retail investors in just a second here. You're going to see that what we're seeing now is them closing the door on some of that noise, which is U.S. retail investors. And as far as Coinbase goes, anyone wanting to get it that is a customer of theirs can't get it right now. Let's keep listening for a second.
What we are pursuing is the use of XRP as a financial asset by sophisticated institutions as a bridging mechanism. So does this hurt or harm? Well, it creates a lot of noise.
It creates a lot of noise. We are a lot of noise. And you know what? I forget the majority, the most accounts of XRP, I believe, are like 1,000 XRP or less. And there's a lot of retail noise because everybody out here that's holding 1,000 or less is on crypto Twitter, and they think they're Warren Buffett because of it. But it hasn't mooned yet. That's the retail noise they're talking about. Don't get it twisted. That's right. It's you and me. It's the concert t-shirt wearing retail investor and speculator holding this that's making noise. But it's a chicken and egg thing. They had to have us to establish a market. Let's keep listening.
And, we certainly don't want that much noise, but we're waiting. And for example, this last quarter, the bulk of XRP sales were to institutional investors.
And their bulk of sales at that time, and this was 2018, was institutional investors. That has steady been the case since that time. Now you have to understand, when you think of this, Think of the fact that what is taking place right now, they're phasing us out. Don't believe that. It appears to be true. And if XRP comes out of this as Gary Gensler sees it with a security designation, you have to start asking yourself, what are the real questions going forward and being forward thinking? What does it mean? Can we still buy it? If so, where can we still buy it? If it gets a security designation, can we still hold it? And if so, how do we have to hold it? Most exchanges don't have security license. So will we be able to put it on our Nano and hold it? Or are we going to have to go to a Fidelity, which I would prefer if that happens? Will it remain on exchanges at all? Will the exchanges adopt it and get it because they'll get a security license to accommodate that and then back off to the races we go? It doesn't appear that that's where we're headed, but we don't know. Again, I would love to see XRP just get a currency designation and out the gate we go and onward and upward. But I don't think that that's the case because they really do want to get rid of the noise, which is us, the retail investor. Doesn't mean they don't like us, but that's not the real intended use, and we should understand that. And I think this picture could start to really become a lot clearer if you see yourself not in it. See it from their point of view. Their point of view does not have us in this because we don't bring what we need to bring to the asset, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that we won't be rewarded for holding it. Let's listen.
As this transitions away from retail to institutions who will start to use it for wholesale, financial usage,
that's really the end of the day. That's what we're talking about here. As we start to transition away from retail into institutional usage, that's when we're going to see that turning point come. That's what he says. And when you think of where we are in this moment, it's hard to think that this is not that turning point, that they are starting to quell some of the noise out here, which is the retail investor, by halting the trading where they can, certainly here in the U.S. And then you have to say to yourself, but Brad, it's on 150, 200 exchanges. Yeah, but I tell you, we just read you how the Delaware court has got a restraining order against Ripple in all sales. So if they're not selling OTC and they got to keep a zero net balance, as we talked about the other day from the article we dove into on this, and first of all, that's very harmful to Ripple's business and what they need to do, right? And growing their business. But you see they're still pushing on internationally around the world, which is a huge plus. But you have to ask yourself, if we come out of this with a security designation, you have to ask yourself, and they shut the door on the exchanges. Well, how are they going to shut the door on exchanges, Brad? Because the US SEC doesn't tell exchanges around the world what to do. You're right. They told Ripple they can't sell anymore. And if you can't get any more from OTC, then you're going to run out on your exchange to be able to offer XRP to anyone. And then you start to see a scenario where the 95% of customers that are outside of the United States that work with Ripple can quickly move in and buy up the rest of the liquidity that remains on the exchanges. And then it's not on the exchanges anymore. I don't know where this goes, and it may not go to a security designation. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully we get a currency designation and this thing is off to the races and the SEC gets a scathing review because they waited 7 years and neglected to do their duty. And maybe that's where this goes, and that would suit me just fine. But I know this, and I said it a minute ago, and I'm going to say it again. But if it's a possibility, I believe we have a responsibility to entertain the notion and the potential outcome of what this asset is and what we hold and what it may mean for us. Hey, if they call it a security and they want me to go to Fidelity with my portfolio, I have no problem with it. I mean, I love Fidelity. I actually have an account with them. But, I think in this moment, I find it very peculiar that while we're looking at not being able to get the asset as readily, at least as readily as we used to, and during this time that all of this is happening with this uncertainty, there's zero uncertainty with the BIS and what they're doing. They are actually testing CBDCs and distributed ledger projects right now for massive wholesale back-end use. And I can't see for the life of me, after listening to Brad Garlinghouse tell us that central banks around the world are certainly looking to issue stablecoins off of the XRP Ledger open source technology, that any of this is a coincidence that it's happening at the same time. Hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, make sure you share with someone you know, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Check out all the links in the description box and the comment section. They are trusted products and services that I use each and every day, and there may be something in there that you want or need, and they are trusted, vetted links. I'll catch all of you on the next one.